right, I'm going to talk you through the clubs and the splits during the French Revolution. This is basically just the internal political workings of the governments as they're kind of going along. And what I mean by that is that as we're progressing through the four revolutionary governments of France, what's happening is that new political parties are forming. They call them clubs in France, and these political parties are gaining power, then subdividing, and then becoming more radical in some cases, and trying to hold their own in other cases. So I'll try to talk you through the clubs and splits. It could be a little bit confusing, but on the other hand, it might make it a little bit clearer what they're trying to do during the formation of these governments after the king is deposed. So the first club, or the first official political party of the revolution, was the Society of 30, and it was 30 guys who got together in basically a bar and decided that they were going to work in concert with one another to kind of advance a political agenda. Their political agenda was pretty moderate, definitely more democratic than the monarchy. But the idea of any political party is that the people are more powerful if they have a platform, meaning goals that they're working for together, as opposed to individuals who are trying to scrap and fight and get legislation approved on their own. The next club that was formed was in the spring and summer of 1789. It was called the Breton Club of Versailles at the Café Academy. And the Café Academy was the place where they met, and they tried to get together and again come together and promote a democratic platform that was somewhat moderate. But it was early on in the revolution in the spring and summer of 1789. The 1789ers have some of the famous revolutionary Sieyès and Talleyrand. And Talleyrand is an interesting character. He seems to bounce from one political party to the other as long as it's going to keep him in power and keep him alive. And, we can talk about him some other day. But the 1789ers were a very moderate club. They were led by Mirabeau, and Mirabeau, was the president of the National Assembly. And it had these other prominent kind of moderate members as well, Sieyès and Talleyrand. The Society of Friends of the Constitution was the most liberal political club in the early days. They later became the Jacobins. And these have the guys who are, the most left-wing kind of liberal Democrats at the beginning of the revolution. I think that's all I'm going to say about them. They eventually become the Jacobins. And the Jacobins' first fight is against the Feuillants, and they are the constitutional monarchists. So they're the ones who want to have the king as part of the government of France, kind of like the president is part of the government of the United States, with a suspensive veto and all that kind of stuff. And so the point is, with the Feuillants versus the Jacobins, as we go into 1790, 1791, is that the Jacobins look better, certainly after the Feuillants. The king tries to escape the country and kind of sells out the Feuillants and this idea of a constitutional monarchy. So that most people pile towards the left and move into the Jacobins. In the Flight to Varennes and the Champ de Mars, which you guys know about, where Lafayette fired into the crowd, push a lot of people more to the left and more towards the Jacobins. Some of the prominent Jacobins early on were Brissot, Robespierre, Marat, Danton de Moulin, and Hébert. And some of the prominent Feuillants are Bailly, Lafayette, Dupont, and they were, more moderate. In 1792, the Commune took over Paris. They couldn't. The Constitution wasn't working. This new democracy they formed wasn't working. So they had to move towards a dictatorship when the Paris Commune took over in 1792. And again, political parties were split. And eventually the Jacobins formed into five different groups, I guess I have four different groups here. The Héberists, who were the most radical left. The Jacobins, who were the pretty left, not quite as left as Hebert, who wanted to, burn all the churches and kill all the priests. And then Robespierre, and we talked about his Festival of the Supreme Being and his lists of traitors. The Indulgence, led by Danton and de Milan, and we're going to talk about them later. I think they are the most heroic of the latter part of the revolution. And then the Girondists, who were exiled from Paris after they lost the vote on whether to kill the king or not. And so I guess the point that you should see when we're looking at the clubs and the splits is that political parties became an integral part of the revolution from a very early stage. And then the second thing I think you need to see is how the political parties continued to move further and further left and continue to split over smaller and smaller differences. I think probably the kind of most apt phrase of the revolution is that it's like Saturn, it ate its own. And so that's sort of true. The people who started the revolution actually were consumed by the revolution, and most of them died at the hands of the revolution. And so just like Saturn, who, consumed all of his children, the revolution seemed to, consume all of its children with the guillotine and with further and further more radical politics. So hopefully that'll help a little bit, but that's that.